When you have a history of greatness, the real challenge starts after the finish line. When victory alone isn't enough, you chase something greater, no matter how difficult the path. On the dirt, in the sand, and beyond. The new 2024 Ridgeline Passport and Pilot, part of our most rugged trail sport lineup yet. From Honda.
So anyway, I'm your parish president, elected in November, took office in January, and one of the things I talked about doing, being in office, was to have transparency and conversations. So anyway, without all that static, to have conversations, transparency, and so one of the things we did is that we're gonna have town halls. You're gonna see I have a lot of directors here tonight, which I'm gonna go get this list right now. So going around the room here, if you wanna look at it, raise your hand as I call your name. We have Mr. Ryan Melanson and Russell Walters with comms. That's the two guys adjusted and filming back there. Ms. Kelly Bernardo with Housing and Human Services at the table back there. Chief Corey Henry with Houma Fire Department in the middle. We have Mr. Jim Wendell, Quality of Life. Mark Black, Coastal Restoration, standing up waving his hand back there. Clay Noctan with Solid Waste. And vegetation, yeah, there's roadside vegetation. We have actually two different vegetation areas. Chris Pulaski with Planning and Zoning, permits and of sorts. Ernest Brown, Utilities, raising his hand right there. Noah Lered, who's the Chief Administrative Officer, that used to be the Parish Manager position. We renamed that. We also have Beryl Amity, State Representative, back there, waving her hand, and her husband, John Amity, who is our council chair. Council District 1, right? 4. I was thinking you saw those numbers. And I think that's everybody. So we brought her, and we got Leilani Adams, who didn't put her name on the list, who didn't want to be recognized with the blue shirt back there. And she is what's soon to be called my chief of staff. So we came here to talk about what we've done to date. So we have some stuff we're going to talk about there. I'd love to show the presentation, but I always offer the option of seeing the presentation or going straight into questions and answers. My presentations are very informal, so as you have a question, raise your hand. We'll make sure to try to get the mic to you so everybody can hear what your question is, and those in TV and internet land. And throughout the presentation, and I'm not going to leave here until every question is answered that I can answer or that my team can answer, and if we have to go back and get the information and come back to you, we're going to get your phone number, contact. Everybody should have a piece of paper. And that paper, you know, our conversation is about if you have an issue, give us an address, give us a contact, picture if you have it, and we're going to fix your issue, right? So as we go through this process, that's what those are for, to make sure we come back and get you some answers, to take notes. And then I'd love for you guys to fill out our survey that we have, just to make sure that the information we are providing is helpful. And that's what we're here for. And I'm here really to more listen than talk. But I do love to share what we've done to date. And so if you guys are a fan of seeing that presentation first, we'll go through that. We do have the Small Business Administration group here that is going to talk a little bit about disaster recovery and assistance that they are providing. So I'm waiting on one of their people to get here, and I'll hand it over to them once that happens. So that being said, are y'all cool with the presentation? Show of hands for presentation? All right, there you go. All right, so one of the things you can see is this logo that I have on my shirt and on that screen. When I looked at taking office and the fact that we use our seal for everything, there was an ordinance that said if you want to use a seal, you got to get permission, and there's a $500 fine and all this other stuff. And so I've always felt like the seal should be special, used for special occasion and official business. I also did a study that saw that the top 5 performing parishes in the state all had some type of rebrand with a logo that could be used for marketing purposes. And so with this logo, anybody can use it. You can put it on materials. You can get out and just, again, show the world. And when I look at the green and the blue, it represents our land and our water, which makes up the good earth, right? And although the part of the parish besides the good earth is our great people, which is why I'm here working to give everybody a voice make sure your voice is heard, and make sure that we answer all your questions and we resolve as many issues as we can legally, right? But we really just want to make a difference in our lives, and that's why we talk about recovery, resiliency, and quality of life. I've talked about quality of life, and one of the reasons why I ran is my daughter was talking about leaving after she graduated at college. My son's a senior in high school. He was talking about leaving. So it started with wanting to make sure they had a place to either stay or if they leave to come home to. And I'm the kind of person that says, if I will be here, I want to make it better. And I had a calling to run. And thankfully for the Lord's plan, he chose me to be in this position. And I'm just trying to do his work every day. And so that's what we're working on in our parish, are those three topics right now. Next slide, sir. So one of the things we want to talk about is some rebuilding projects. Just to let you guys know, I know we have residents still dealing with IDA and insurance and everything else. We're going through the same process, right? We have a fire station on the east side that was destroyed that we hadn't even started rebuilding yet. The Civic Center was in the middle of being repaired when the temporary roof got blown off for Francine. It also blew the temporary roof we had on the power plant off into the power lines, caused some problems. But we are working to get those repaired. Dumas Auditorium was completed in July. Our government tower, we're hoping to be in at the end of this month. So the first 2 floors doesn't have the people that were in that building pre-IDA yet. And so that does create some inefficiencies with the fact that we're planning and zoning one place and customer service in another. And we're all working on, once that's in place, I think we're going to get some efficiencies back that we've lacked. The municipal auditorium is mostly complete on its work they're doing. And then we're going to be building a health unit. We're about 90% complete on the plans. We're hoping to have those plans complete this fall and start construction on a new health unit located right next door to the one we have on West Tunnel Boulevard, on Tunnel Boulevard. And I'll tell you, just recently I've had a conversation around the negative connotation that comes with a health unit. And so in conversations with the state that runs the health unit, we're talking about doing something different there and not calling it a health unit, right? Or maybe like a community outreach center that also has health unit capabilities. And that's what we're about. We're about bringing people into a room, having a conversation, resolving issues. And I heard about this issue at the Night Out Against Crime in Deweyville, and then had a meeting, just happened to have a meeting the following week, and it just kind of keeps happening that way where we go, if people have a negative connotation and not using the facilities, let's change the way we do it. And then in the conversation we had with the state health group, they said, we don't think anybody's ever done that. And my HR risk manager goes, well, yeah, we like to be first. And so a couple other firsts we'll talk about here tonight. But again, it's a mindset about doing some things differently and having different conversations to get things done. Any questions on any of this before I move forward? I'm gonna do that at every slide. So again, feel free to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I'll make sure you're serious about it. So one of the things you may or may not heard a lot about is something called CDBGR funding. There you go, it's telling me push forward. I got to push back for the sound. But so this is a process where through the state and the federal government, we're allocated or obligated $117 million. And the way it started out as 2 allocations. One was related to resiliency, the other was related to economic development, but they both had to benefit low to moderate income residents, which is a majority of Terrebonne Parish. People may or may not know this, that 50% of our parish is either no pay or government pay health care. And I think that's important information to know as we look to move the parish forward and making sure we include everybody in these conversations about recovery, resiliency, and quality of life. And so when you look at, first we had to turn in something like 4 days in office, they had to turn in the first list. The second list got turned in because it was considered 2 allocations. As we were going through and answering the questions on the first list, the state came and said, look, we're gonna make this one pot of money instead of 2, all the applications for the plans that were approved. So we turned in about 26 plans to the state, to the Office of Community Development. They said, we like your plans, you need to fill out some applications. Those are all due November 30th. And so we're going through that process right now. We actually just got awarded 2 projects. The first 2 we finally received awards on, and we're going to be sharing some information about that. But again, this goes back to making sure we help both the resiliency and or economic development and affect low to moderate income. So when you look at the projects that we have listed here, these are a lot of the ones that cover the entire parish, and this is just a few I wanted to list. Again, we have 26 of them. You can go to our website, tpcg.org/recovery, to see all 26 or 29 projects. But water redundancy and water quality, small business grants, support for our seafood industry, activate the Bayou, a small business incubator, a stormwater study, and a wastewater study. I know, especially in this area, sewage is a heavy conversation about a need, right? One of the things that we're not able to do is say, let's go do this sewage project, because when I look at sewage, we got to look at, so if we're going to add a neighborhood, if we're going to add a street, we have to make sure that we have the facilities and infrastructure there. And then we have two plants. We have a north treatment plant and a south treatment plant. We also have to make sure that plant can take in anything new we add into the system. So there's funding out there that we can't go after right now because we don't have a plan. And I'm not a big fan of studies, but when we talk with OCD, they even talk about the fact of once you get plans like this in place, then you could say maybe this neighborhood is 10 million, that street's $1 million, the system over here needs 2 million or 3 million. Once we have those numbers configured for the entire parish, we could then go after grants and funding that they specifically have for water and sewage. And so that's one of the things that we're working on with a wastewater study. We're also working on a stormwater study, where the water flows, where the water stacks, what pumps do this and don't do that, and where do we need a better situation to move water around. We had a meeting with the levee district about the fact that both us and the levee district are in the business of moving and managing water. And they said, well, we're not really in drainage, but if they don't open the floodgates, they are, right? So it's that conversation to make sure we have a good working relationships, that we have agreements in place that manage our rules of engagement. But these things allow us to do that. So when we look at something like Activate the Bayou, I don't remember the last time any bayou's been dredged or maintained. When we got in office, we found that we had about $8 million that, due to whatever circumstances applied, wasn't spent to take care of Bayou Terrebonne, right? But when you look at the money that was there versus what they were trying to do, it really didn't match up. So one of the things we did is we said, look, let's go through and do a clear and snag. And we did that from Lafayette Street to West Side Boulevard to get an idea of what could we do to make the bayou healthier, to make it flow better, and to clear out debris and trees, things that were still left from Ida. And so with that project, we were able to get a good idea of, per mile, we can do this kind of work. So now we're looking at taking the money that was there since 2012 and doing that same project from that point to the parish line. And so that includes Bayou Terrebonne running right here to make sure we get more water flow, that it's healthier, that it's maintained, that we get rid of vegetation. And so by us doing that with the money we already have, we're then able to take that model and replicate it to all the other bayous, right? So we have bayous that are silted in. You go around, Bayou DeLarge, Bayou Grand Caillou, Bayou Terrebonne, just Bayou Local, you go around, they all need some TLC. And we just know, the bayou is one of the most valuable resources. When you look at towns and parishes and cities that were just killed for a waterway like we have. So we're looking at it twofold. One, we want to get sewage out of it, right? So you can bring the sewage conversation into it. We want to get more water flow. So we're having conversations about how we get more water from Bayou Lafourche and from Bayou St. Louis, and maybe from the water treatment plant into Bayou Terrebonne there, and getting it cleaned out to let the water flow even better, right? And maybe the long-term goal is to get water straight from Bayou Lafourche down the little canal that comes through Thibodaux that used to be a bayou from that point. So we're going to try to induce water into it, make it healthier, get it flowing more, and then use that as an example of what we can do per mile with that kind of work to then institute that around the parish. And that's why it's part of Activate the Bayou. So you're looking at a couple of these projects go on top of each other. When we talk about water redundancy and water quality, we're talking about a pump to help water district get more water into our water system. And we're talking about a water line that needs to go from the west side to the east side so that the east side has sustainable drinking water. Because right now we've been patching a line that could fail, and we got to make sure that our residents on the east side, the south side of the parish, have good drinking water, good bathing water. So when you look at these projects and how we're funding it, or how it's going to be funding, the process that I feel is real important that the parish can do a good job of is when we talk about the small business incubator or the small business grants. It's going to be once we get the money from the state to do these projects, what we do to make sure that those funds are easily accessible and evenly accessible to the entire parish, to where the people that need the funding get that funding, right? And we talk about support for the seafood industry. You know, it's going to start off with maybe helping individual fishermen, but maybe at some point we're going to have a study that's part of that, and maybe we introduce cold storage and packaging and some other things. And so some of these projects, one of the projects we're talking about is centers, community centers, right? Recovery/community centers that we're going to do a study on and figure out where in the parish we need them. Now, we might determine that we have $50 million worth of community center projects that we need. With the study, it's going to let us prioritize it. And even if we only have $6 million allocated for it out of this funding, we then also have a plan. Sometimes you got to go without it, right? So hopefully you can all hear me, and if you can't, I'll speak real loud. So we look at the fact that a lot of this stuff's going to be studies that gives us the data to go after money that might not be covered here in that project, right? There's only so much funding. It is related to IDA and recovery in those areas, but it gives us the footprint for going after funding outside of this. You know, the conversation I've been having is, as you see these projects, if you don't think something's covered, we don't have to wait on this either. Like, if we have a need now, if this community has a need now, we want to know about it now. Why wait? And so that we can work to make sure that not only are we going through this funding, other state funding, federal funding, grant opportunities. You know, we relocated where our grandfather was because they were not in finance, we put them in finance. And so we're changing the way we operate from a grant perspective. So we want to address the needs. And look, we might not get this funding needed this year, middle of next year, but maybe if there's another need, maybe we can find funding for that sooner. So again, it's just one piece of the many different funding sources that we can work with to get projects taken care of in all our individual communities, right? We're here to be proactive and listen to what your issues are, and working also to get a community outreach group created to go into the communities, get the needs, and be proactive in bringing resources and addressing issues. So I can talk about this by itself all night. Any questions on this, what it looks like? Yes, sir.
Talking about the Activate the Bayou program, you said the money is there.
It's obligated.
Okay.
And we're filling out project applications. So we actually, the way it was, we actually had two activated bodies, because one was related to exhibits, the other was related to economic development. We're merging those two together, and once we get approved on that application, we can then implement whatever projects you're looking at doing and put into that application.
Okay, so the money for
Yeah,
West Side Boulevard North is not.
That's a different bucket one. That's $8 million that we found we had that we're going to use for that project. Right? And that's nothing to do with this. That's what we're doing. Like, so there's a pump station stuff in here. There's a few different kind of things in here to address, you know, some needs that we have. And then from there, we're already working on other pots of money and other opportunities. You know, the state has a watershed fund that you can use for water and sewer projects. We're looking to get added to the Delta Regional Authority, which also has water and sewer projects, right? So there's other ways that once we do this wastewater study and saltwater study, there's other pots of money that are already there that we'll better go after that we can't go after with something else.
Okay, so my question, I guess, is since that $8 million is there, when do we start seeing some move?
So we started, like I said, we got to West Side Boulevard. We're going through stuff like geotech. I guarantee it, that's something big. You know, is working on a lot heavily. It can't happen fast enough, much like everything else on this presentation I'm going to show you. Do we have any better idea of time frame on when we think we'll get going on that project?
Yeah, so we're wrapping up our engineering on that. So that's a statewide flood control line that we got to work back in 2012. The reason why it was held up for so long was, like Jason said, was geotech work. The reason why is because there's a lot of banking and stabilization in town, right? So instead of going to a -6, which was originally what it was designed for, which was also meant stabilization, we're going to a -3. And by doing that, it's going to do two things. One, it's going to make the whole project more reasonable. Two, it's going to make it more cost effective. So by making that decision, by Jason making that decision, we're forward with that project. That engineering's wrapped up by the end of the year. And I'm hoping to break ground with that project. A lot of summer now.
Okay, you walk through it, -3, -.
So how deep the bayou is.
Okay.
Right? So the plan originally was -6. Well, if you do a -6 in some areas, the banks will start caving in. And so again, we're looking at maybe a -3. Some places might be a -2. But to get the silt, the debris, the trees, you know, and that's not even clear. We talk about, again, doing a different way, which allows us then hopefully, you know, our goal is to get that to the parish line, right? We want to get that at whatever level, even if it's a -1 right on this side of the parish line, to at least touch every part of that waterway. For, you know, for that, because that's a project is have nothing to do with anything like this, right? We might take some of this money to do another bayou, do some other things, kind of working through as we go through this kind of project. And if you want to detail what we're talking about here from a plan, so we've submitted some plans because we had to get something uploaded, but as we're going through it, we're going, well, maybe we don't need this, we had that, we're able to modify a little bit of that application, not a whole lot. But as we do that process, we might submit it and they go, you can't do that, you can't use the funding for that, or, you know, we might allocate it this much and it needs that much. So as we work with the state, you know, we have to have this money spent on 2028 unless they change it. But these projects, we gotta get in working and we gotta get it completed, meet state requirements, but at the same time, we also have to adhere to the state requirements on all the stuff like the regulation and projects we're trying to do, right? Some of these projects might be a bus station versus another project with small business grants. So the parish should put an application process for small businesses to apply to get small business grants related to Iowa recovery and resiliency or economics. And we're gonna work, you know, we got small business incubators being done in Fletcher, and with Bayou, and we keep the located right next to them. So between the small business grants and small business incubator, we got team, we got Fletcher working together, helping out manage that and make sure that, you know, what I think is so important to me, I've done this working with Tito through Louisiana Economic Development, is that whatever funding a small business gets actually goes to address a need, not something maybe somebody thinks they need. But go to a company and say, what's your biggest pain? Let's try to use funding and opportunities here to fix that pain, to really be actual revenue growth, profitable, more profit for the small business. And the citizens that are struggling with this problem. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. The infrastructure project government talked about. This is infrastructure. Did you get any money from the federal government for infrastructure?
Not yet, but it's like 75 million on the line. I keep hearing about it. So far, I haven't seen it happen yet, but I keep hearing it's coming. So one of the things we did, so Congress started to do more earmarks. They hadn't done it in a while. They did it like a year or two. We looked at like road striping in our parish. We would have striped every road that needs stripes in a parish road. That's $3.2 million. I sent that to the federal delegation and said, if anything's infrastructure, so like that would be it, right? So those are areas that we're sending stuff that let fall into this bucket of money and maybe another bucket of money. And we might be spending $100,000 a year on. So if you look and say, you don't have a budget for striping, but we try to take something out of our budget every year, we get a little bit done. Same thing with lift stations, right? We get a little bit done. We're trying to take these projects and put them into bigger projects for $5 million, $10 million, $3 million, to go to some different funding sources that hopefully can get us funding. I'm hoping I can use infrastructure money to do some road striping and some road repairs, some other projects that we're looking at. It's one of the things we're going to do that we haven't done since 2002 is a road study, right? So you have a priority list, you have a good idea of what needs work, but we hadn't done a road study in 22 years. Again, it's time to do that to make sure we're all on the same page of priority and then working on the council to come up, you have priorities in each council district, and then we got to prioritize that as a parish and having that working relationship going back and forth. And then at the same time, working with our state representatives on stuff like that outlay to make sure we're all on the same page of what we feel is priority in the parish, and then go after the funding for those projects.
So, these communities, so what you all do, because some of us put in applications for community fees. You all just take and put it all in one bucket,
So I can tell you, we gathered that as part of the process we had to go through this CPR money. We had to do town halls, surveys, and everything. Plus, we have some other studies, and I'll let Chris Rowland all what other studies we use for drawing plans.
So the long-term recovery plan after IDA. So in fall of 2022, we did a series of 7 meetings throughout the parish, where we talked about various projects, and a lot of them ended up on the same list of projects that we have here, DR recovery programs, and community centers and resiliency centers is certainly one of them.
So when you say you put out something with FEMA, you went to FEMA and put out an
Yeah, we had
application?
an application, they give you the application. Put out an application last, November last year.
Well, I know we have several people who have expressed an interest in providing a community center for their area, but we haven't put out the formal application yet. We have to get approval from the state for our program before we do that. But I have your information, I have several others.
Right, so part of that process is we do a study. So different than road, right? You hear that constant conversation, roads, drainage. You know, we have all these issues that need to be fixed. And I want to make sure I say this. We do not have all the money to fix everything we need to fix. Just from a capital projects perspective, we're probably at $500 million mark. So if we can do everything we want to do, it's as, right? Part of what we do is some of these studies to figure out what's the priority, what's the most unsafe, what areas have the most risk. So as we go through that process, so different than the community center part, it might identify, again, we have $50 million worth of projects. They gave us, they're looking to get the funding of $6 million for a study in some of those projects. But the fact that we have a plan for all of those projects, might be some other funding we go out after from the state level, from the federal level, other grant sources, to make sure we address, again, what's the priority of all those, and those that have the most speed get addressed first. That answers your question. Any other questions on this before we move forward? Everybody can hear me okay still? Okay. So one thing I do like to talk about, I don't like to talk about it because I like it. I like to talk about it because I think it's important. We can't address the issue we all agree we have to. And when I say that, I mean that between the parish and the residents, between parish, administration and the council, between Terrebonne Parish and the state, but whatever conversation we gotta have, we gotta make sure we both agree that we're wrong. And I believe we are battling housing crisis. We had around 500 low moderate income units that we lost with the storm between Bayou Towers and Center Circle. One of the things we've done just recently was address a certain segment. Right? We have gaps throughout this process, but we just reopened beautiful beginnings. And that's going to address females and families when it comes to those who are homeless and needy. Then you look at between Parkway Place, West Lofts, Superior Terrace, and Volunteer, we're somewhere around 250 units. Right? But we still have a shortage. Right now, our waiting list is around 500 when it comes to voucher-related housing and low moderate income housing. And so we're having a conversation. I've had it with the Housing Authority. We've had it with the state delegation. I've had it with the federal delegation. We have a housing crisis. We need to fix this. And I say it that way because it's very important to us all. And so we're working to understand how many people were pushed out of housing after the storm, that are not coming back, maybe in the past, what those numbers look like, and try to bite this issue off in chunks of maybe 25, 50 houses here and there. For example, Parkwood Place, we had to get an adjustment approval because that's considered a flood area and they didn't want to put housing there. But because it's going to be lifted, we had that opportunity to put housing there, which gives us 9 units. Right? So we are working to make sure we address this. We're also, we're working with, at a regional perspective, on behavioral health, opioids, and the things that might make people homeless, working those on a case-by-case basis. But I believe it's important for us to fight those issues regionally. Historically, one parish gets a resources get overwhelmed, and they lose that resource. So for us to have an active conversation working through an organization like the Bayou Community Foundation to address opioids, behavioral health, which I think lead to crime, mental health, homeless issues and everything else, right? And so, there's gaps in the system when it comes to homelessness. right now we're working at a regional level to identify those gaps and try to figure out what we can do to help build the services between our different parishes. And again, we're working with Soul Corporation, and we're working with the Housing Authority, and just trying to make sure that we do everything we can for those gaps. That's why we have 55 units that are senior housing, right? So we can make sure that every segment of the community is addressed. So these are things we're working on. You know, we're pushing more every day to make a difference in this. We were somewhere, I want to say it was at 300. Chris, what's the last number of people? Was it three? Are we still in the threes? Are people not living in their homes?
Just under 300.
How many?
Just under.
It's under 300. It's not much. And it's some people find insurance that still have a camper. You know, some people that were in one place that aren't able to have a place because they can't afford it, right? So we're looking at addressing this in multiple areas, but we are fighting with some
So you've got right about 60 right here on Water Plant Road. And then you have private, you know, a lot of those units are on private properties. And some are on commercial, some are in existing mobile home parks.
And look, we think that's a concern because when a storm comes through here like Tennessee did, you know, we got to get those people out of those homes and get them into another place, family-friendly shelter, make sure that they're not injured or in unsafe working conditions during the storm.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Any questions on this before we move on?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at your list. What happened to Bayou Tower? Because I knew quite a few people that was there, and you know, they still spread out, still living with family and stuff, and we haven't heard nothing on that.
I'm impressed with the housing authority, probably more than they want me to. But I was told originally,
So it's there?
so that's falling under the housing authority managed through HUD. I was told initially that they had to get that torn down, step one, take step two. So I started pushing heavily to get it torn down. We're our building inspector here condemned it. And then I understood FEMA didn't recognize that, so we're looking at taking it through our actual condemnation process, working with the council. But then the conversation I had with both housing authority and HUD in the room is, what's important to me is a plan, right? How many people need to come back? How many people need housing? Kelly tells me we got 500 people that can use it right now. So, you know, 10 houses, 25 units, 50 units. Either tear down the building or come up with a plan. I'm good at either one. Right now, either. So that's where my first instance is working with the housing authority and other to assist them. Because what's important to me is I want to understand 3 years after the storm what the plan is. I actually got told that the treaty took 10 years. The hurricane in Houston, don't blank on the name right now, Harvey was 7 years. So if we get housing addressed in 5 years to them, I think it's a victory. That's not a victory. We're 3 years in. We need to come up with something now. And that's what I'm pushing.
So it is.
People are comfortable, but again, I feel like we're in a hospital.
Right. So they're talking of tearing it down. I'm assuming it was that damage that
We had our building inspector go through it, and it's been deemed unlivable, at which point we feel like it needs to be blown out. And again, they were talking about tearing it down before they took step 2. Then they were having a conversation about settling it, and I was just like, that, you know, now you're talking about a longer process. If you're telling me that's step 1 before you go to step 2, unless you tell me step 2 or step 1's a plan now, either way, you got to figure out something to address the housing crisis. So, I'm having conversations with that board on a regular basis. They give me updates every 2 weeks now, and I'm pushing on. This is not fast enough, we're not doing enough. Again, I want that plan because the question is, of the, so we had 350 advice houses and 200 in the circle, how many people are coming back? Is it 50? Is it 100? What is that? How do these units offset that? And then we have a 500 person waiting list that our housing department's aware of. again, look, for 3 years, it's not plan. Any other questions on that? All right, next, please. Economic development, so we talk about recovery, we talk about issues that we're fighting. I like to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I like to talk about the fact that we just did an EDA water line grant. So if you look at Martin Luther King Westside Boulevard, where you have the performance place, and then you have like walk-ons and everything, there's a corner that's empty, and that corner is empty because they're working utilities there. You just work with TIDA to get a grant, put utilities there, that provides the opportunity for construction, businesses, sales tax. So that's something positive we're looking at. The Parish Water Goody Bank Building at the end of last year, that's a conversation about foot traffic downtown and the investment in having foot traffic downtown. What does that mean for businesses downtown? And then that just spreads out as you drop a pebble in the pond, that ripple effect spreads out in the center of the parish. Collective workforce building, they just built Schriever over here, which is an opportunity for workforce development, a lot with medical and nursing. And then Central Louisiana is a group that is going to be working on trying to take water lilies, something that's a real big fan favorite from Turner Parish, and turn it into a product. They have conversations, once they're up and running, they can make it process 100 tons a day. But they have to get the location, they're working on building a facility to house it, and at some point, hopefully that'll address our water lily issue in Turner Parish. So we've got some cool things going on, plus the 117 million on Houma, I think it's going to be a shocking one. For economic growth and opportunity for our residents, for our business, right? We look at the projects, we want to make sure that our residents and businesses have an opportunity to work these projects that are coming in, that the parish provide that opportunity for everyone. Any questions? Economic development? Permit totals by year, I just think it's a good stat to show. We know we are behind on permits. It used to be 2 to 5 days. It takes 2 weeks. See, we're out to 8,000 permits, basically 2/3 more than we normally would deal with. And you can see we're on pace to finish around 5,000 still. We got a lot of load with the Restore LA process. So we're looking to say, we got to Restore LA and said, we're spending a lot of our regular permit time dealing with Restore LA. Can you send us somebody to help with that? We got somebody in to help with that. We're getting Chris some help with some other levels of just getting people to answer phones and process things. So that's something we are constantly working on. It isn't at the numbers of what it was return on free item, but we are having process on a regular basis to resolve that, but just to understand. And that's the other thing too. So we just went with Francine. We did the same thing for Francine that we did for items. So if you have a permit related to Hurricane Francine, we are waiving the fees on those permits. We still want you to get a permit because we put that data, get the FEMA and the state to let them know what kind of recovery we're going through, and that helped us meet benchmarks for things that we need to do to get funded. So it's not that we're trying to beat the big brother and we want to for everything. The permit helps us get the information we need to help get more opportunities for funding. But we are not charging for that permit related to Hurricane Francine damage. So please, if you do anything like that, please get that permit. Any questions?
Are you talking about replacing the fence, permit for fence?
Yes, sir. Related to Francine damage, yes, sir. Insurance reform. I know this is something we deal in our area. If y'all don't mind, by show of hands, if you start currently dealing with homeowners issue, insurance issue, rise, costs, anything along those lines, they just show of hands. Who feels like they're dealing with homeowners insurance?
Everybody.
Well, you say that, but in these things, in these town halls, it should be half the price. So we're dealing with flood insurance. So they really are two different issues, right? I think it's important to talk about it like that. The state legislature went through 26 bills to help improve the climate of insurance. Our new insurance commissioner is working real hard. One of the things that after Francine passed, he came down here to Sunday after Francine. We went down to the levees, showed him the work the levees do, right? So we probably have about $1 billion into the levy system that we tax ourselves for, right? And I don't have a conversation about sales tax, property tax, or some interesting facts that I learned. But for him to put his eyes and hands and see and feel what we've done and what it meant to us and Francine. So if you look at it, Rita, we had 11,000 homes flood. Barry, we had 11. Ida, we had 3. Francine, we had 0 related to the left. I know we had some stuff on the north side and a drainage issue occurred that caused a little bit of flooding on the north side, and you know, we're working through these kind of issues. But when it comes to job of the levees and what it did its job. And so with that, Tim Temple's working on getting some reinsurers down here to look at the work and effort we put into it. Plus, there's a lot to say about the fact that we had less damage after Francine than we did, you know, all the stuff that was fixed by held during Francine. We did have 1,000 properties with some level of damage and 17 homes. I think at least 17 were completely destroyed. So some people just went through their version of life. But I do at the EOC, you great at 97 mile an hour gusts. So that storm was nothing to play around with. But I do feel like we got people, at least they could have been a whole lot worse. But as we worked through, my concern after that storm passed was you're going to have a certain amount of time after the storm. Well, we're now kind of at 0 days since our last accident, plus Helene and Milton that's getting ready to hit. So to me, it's a conversation about resilience, right? And I don't know if we've had that conversation with insurance companies where we could show the work we did in levees, floodgates, pumps, and the rebuilding we did after Ida was stood a test. And I think we should get credit for that. And that's the homeowner side of that conversation. From a FEMA perspective, we are working to get the flood maps redone. They hadn't had any updates the data they received in 2018. So we're going through what's called either a LOMA or a PLOMA, letter of map revision, conditional letter of map revision. To get them to recognize the levees, pumps, floodgates, and everything else, to make sure we have a better understanding of what the flood maps look like. We're also involved in a lawsuit with Restrict 2.0 with FEMA to talk about how the models and what data is used, and we are part of that process. So we are fighting two different battles on the insurance front. And I think really from what we could do in Terrebonne Parish, we could get more involved in that flood insurance fight than we can on the homeowner side. And they are still going to make some opportunities, some things better on the homeowner side. But I do think both of them come back to the work we've done, the resiliency we've done, the hardening we've done, which again, hopefully after the first year, we're going to get some reinsurers down here with Tim Temple to show them that. And hopefully that can make the quickest factor, the fastest impact on insurance rate prices, right? But, you know, we are a lot unknown with what happened in Tennessee and Carolina and Florida. You know, I can't see how that didn't change the market. But I think there's also an opportunity to have a conversation that says we're not the only ones that flood, right? You look at the flood maps, we're like 2 to 3 times higher in rates than pretty much anywhere else in the country. So, you know, maybe this levels the playing field a little bit. It's time will tell, but we are doing some things in multiple fronts to try to make an improvement in health response. So, with that part, any questions on insurance or anything anybody wants to add about that?
So when you put the flood map, with that, because I was never the first one, but now I live right down the street, this north and there, the common flood zone. Of course, my insurance company, that gonna be looked at, and you know, we can flood map.
So there's a couple ways to do it. What we recommend to every individual person that you think should be in a flood zone, if they're doing proximity to water, each individual resident can submit what's called a letter of map revision. I've had people I know get taken out of it just based on that single process, right? We did get a link forward. We're going to try to do it from a parish level, but I've seen people have individual success already with that process. So probably it's time. So we have 46 panels, I think it is, right? 46. How many do we have in the parish?
Yeah.
Well, 46, 22 are populated. So those are the ones we're working with FEMA. And we were working to submit 3 or 4. They said that process would take 18 months. So one of the things that Francine did give us the opportunity to have is a conversation with FEMA. And we've been trying to have in 6 months. Instead of cost of we're trying to have a conversation and talk about how we can make this process faster. That saying it's going to take 18 months to 3 panels, and we have 22. Who knows, right? But some of these songs are helping us move that conversation forward, figure out the money and effort we're going to put into this, we'll get that return on investment with them. We can give you a leap in the world market. Again, I recommend everybody do it themselves, because it could be that the parish doesn't be what it needs, but individuals can. We're hoping that the parish is that.
So are you saying that once it's redone, that it's in our insurance, once we think happen?
at it, then our insurance would, what our roofs would be taken off of the flood.
So FEMA will guarantee us that. We know that if we get the data, we can change the maps. That has really nothing to do with the insurance, right? But there's a whole conversation about that insurance being affordable and not affordable. I think flood insurance is antiquated. I think it should be disaster insurance. Everybody has disasters. More people have an opportunity to pay in. Lowers the risk, lowers the rates. But, you know, I think we got to call before we walk, before we run. But, yeah, I think it's an opportunity. It's moving in the right direction. But we're not going to get any guarantee, unfortunately. And, you know, we're going to try to do what we can out of what we have. But if we do, you know, I can tell you that there are projects that have been completed that aren't in those maps. That once they are, it's hard to see how it doesn't make a difference. But we're not, we can't get any guarantees from people. They can't guarantee it either. Shit. I guarantee we're gonna work real hard and try to change it. Any other questions on that?
My issue with that, if you could, maybe you can help me understand, is that, you know, there are issues that were taken care of, but then there are issues here that have not, like Bayou, Terrebonne, and for Francine, people flooded that are not in a flood zone, that if they look at it, including Francine, that could put people that are not in a flood zone in flood.
So as of right now, I don't think that they're far ahead. We're thinking about things to change. Right now, people, and correct me if I'm wrong, are being penalized for being in the vicinity of the bayou. Whether that bayou's dredged or not, I'm sure he's got some great info. He's been working on this day and night.
So Francine was very telling because you're right. You know, we did not have a lot of flooding, but there were isolated areas of flooding in Francine. And so we had a team of people doing damage assessments throughout the entire parish. So we know where those spots are. So we've been in touch with, and we were in touch with our drainage department, drainage division of public works throughout the whole storm. But they are aware of certain areas, not far from where we are right now, up in the Thibodeau, as you're approaching the Thibodeau area, where they had a lot of isolated areas of flooding. So we pinpointed those areas. They're not in a flood zone, but yet they still took on water. And in most cases, it's open ditch drainage with a substantial amount of tree cover, and the tree debris fell down, blocked the ditch, blocked the culverts, and the result, unfortunately, was, you know, that area flooded. But still, at least we know about it, and we can start to address that.
Maybe look, I think with the storm hitting North Carolina and Tennessee, you know, I saw in one area, a lady documented the water was 40 feet, right? They've never seen that in their life. And as, you know, as you look at the land that we're on and how it was formed and that it's still settling, that and every storm that comes through changes the hydrology of our area, right? And so that's why I'm having a conversation about moving and managing water. That's the business we are in now. And so as things arise like this, you know, when you look at something that clogs the drain, you hate to see that happen, but it's not related to the fact that there wasn't a levee or it wasn't a pump or it wasn't something else. And so the fact that we could distinguish between those different things allows us again to come back and say, well, the things we put in place did their jobs, and then we got some special circumstances that we're able to work through and hopefully work on, and we're doing that. I mean, from an electrical perspective, we had some natural gas generator issues. We went through that list to understand what was pressure related, what wasn't, and you know, we got projects we've been working on, projects we're going to work on. And that's a conversation where we can be more transparent there. And just, I think, people knowing that we're not done yet, right? We're working on this, and we've been working on this since Ida. And we didn't have issues for Francine that we had for Ida. But some other places that had issues. But as we continue to progress and improve, you know, to know we're working on it, I think sometimes addresses a lot of people's concerns. And I go back to drainage issue. Anytime you have a drainage issue, you call drainage department, give them your address, give them your phone number. If you can't get them, you call the parish. We'll get you to them. There's also some stuff we're going to better do online in certain areas. So we want to know about it. We want to fix the issues. And as they were coming in, I was getting a few of them. I'd send them to the drainage. I'm like, all right, we want to check that area out. We want to check that area out. Yes, we vacuumed it out. Yes, we cleaned it out. And then in some circumstances, unfortunately, no matter what pumps we have. Most of these pumps can do an inch in the first hour, a half inch every time after that. And we got some crazy rain this year where north of the parish got 14 inches of rain, and south of the city got 12 inches of rain. And didn't get any rain. So every rainstorm that rolls through here has the opportunity to cause some flooding that's never been seen before. But as we make improvements and as we do adjustments, that's stuff we're going to work through some of that stuff. We got the reservoir behind Rouse's that we're working on completing that project. That project is to take, when you look at the water coming out of the Fouche Parish, kind of splits into two. You got the Chacarula Basin and then Bayou Terrebonne area. So we're looking to take that water that's coming from Fouche, and everybody dumps it to us, and put that into a reservoir, hold it for a period of time until levels drop, and we can release that water back into the system. So as we continue to do that, unfortunately, we're going to maybe create some issues as we move through it, but as we do create an issue, and I'll go back to that stormwater study. That's why we're doing that too, because that's going to give us some data. Because I don't know if we've ever, and David Williams not here to help me out with this, they have no opinion, and I don't think we've ever done a study like that, right? We have a couple different drainage systems, 1-1B to 1-1A, but as a whole, how do those things operate along with the intercoastal, and now we have some gates that are able to close off that stop the water from coming in. That has changed. Even if we did a study 10 years ago, it'd be a different study. That's why we're looking at it. I hope the answers. Any other ones before we move forward with insurance? Power plant, I know it doesn't affect everybody, but I think this is good information. We lost our power plant in Iowa. FEMA determined that we did have that need. So we are in a 200 megawatt pocket between Morgan City and New Orleans. So between that area, that's basically a 200 megawatt draw, of which we had 80 megawatts in our power. Those are parish utilities, so if you own parish utilities and it goes through different areas, that's what that power plant covers. So what's important is to know that because FEMA accepts temporary generators, those generators that are carried, so like if our power plant loses power, it goes into a grid, BSO manages it and they distribute power from there. So very rarely you really lose power and use it when you have it. It's all kind of this grid system. So with that grid system, FEMA has paid for 20 megawatts of temporary generators. And if there's a load in our area, those generators are called upon to make sure that we minimize or eliminate the risk of a brownout or a blackout in the city limits. So when you look at the fact that on that main grid, hospital, water plant, those are the things that something like our power plant really makes sure, because we have one feeder line that comes into Terrebonne Parish Energy. If that goes down and we don't have a power plant, we do not have power. And so FEMA's identified that we need that. So we're in a process of trying to get that funding. Of the $170 million it's going to cost to rebuild that, FEMA's obligated $65 million, and we're waiting for them to obligate the other $105. And you look at, you have a question? Okay. So when you look at why are we waiting on FEMA? So before Ida, we were allowed to carry $65 million worth of insurance. That's the only amount that market will allow. Just that power plant is $170 million project, right? So if we could get more insurance, we would have, but we couldn't. And then after Ida dropped to 20, we back up to 45. But FEMA doesn't get involved until you finish with the insurance process. We had to sue our insurance carrier, which sounds familiar to some of y'all, right? He had to do that process. And FEMA didn't enact any bit of money until we were done. So that's why I have conversations with our federal college people and say, is there any way for FEMA to get involved sooner? Because they're going to have to pick something. Why do we have to wait till we fight our insurance 4 years down the road? But that's why we just started working on system-wide lawn repairs to the tune of 847 of them that were 25% complete when Francie hit. We only had to go through the process of fixing the immediate to get back on the other problem. So I had that conversation to say, it may seem like it takes a while for us, but we're still dealing with FEMA 3 years later because of the process that we go through. That's what we had to do, and that's why we're still looking to get this funding, just along with other funding and other projects related to Ida. So, you look at the fact, again, we have an 80 megawatt system that we're going to be rebuilding. We're also trying to get that second feeder line, which whatever one's lost, we have another one. And that power goes in, power goes out. But if we were to lose our feeders and we have that power plant, we can sustain our services in the utilities area of the city and a little further out that manages stuff like the hospitals, water plants, and sort of things. So that's why I feel it's so important to talk about, even though some people are sleep and some people are on energy, that this makes a difference, that the essential services we have to provide as a parish is something we provide for the city limits. Our generators today have been called almost 800 hours. Same period from 2023 to call 9 hours. So using a little bit less, but it still is used, which again, when there's a low draw on the grid, BSO calls us and says, I need you to provide some power. Those generators crank up and we provide that power. And that is something that is paid for by FEMA. So we're not incurring costs for the temporary generators. And then hopefully we'll be funded here in a year, maybe a little bit after that to repair. We're going to talk about supply on repairs. So even though it doesn't seem like it affects you, but it does affect you with the fact that again, we're running our water plants and other facilities off of the power plant and all the power that comes through that feeds city utilities. Any questions on that? Well, you had to handle it.
Does it make money, or would it be feasible just to sell it to the energy? Or
So the one we had was very inefficient when it came to technology. The one we're going to build is very efficient, but you have the opportunity to sell it.
But it's just
Based on what the numbers we look at, we think it's best. And it is. So utilities is one of our larger revenue sources inside the parish, one of the few actually. And with having a more efficient power plant, we have a greater opportunity to not, and again, it's not selling power necessarily to us, it's selling power to the grid. Because they will buy whatever that lowest rate is. And if we can produce it more efficiently, we have an opportunity to sell that power back into the grid, which I think, what as I understand and look at it, is a positive result of Terrebonne Parish revenue. We looked at it 6 ways of Sunday, right? We're looking at, I'm looking at projects to say, just because we're getting the money, do we need that, right? I'd rather not waste the money than get the money, for something we really don't need. But everything we're looking at, the consultants we're working with, even FEMA says, we need this resource here. And because they recognize that, again, that's 80 megawatts of that 200 megawatt pot that we're fulfilling. So. Any questions on that? I'm almost done, so nothing wrong. But accountability. So we can do all kind of great stuff. We can build all kind of great things. But we got to make sure to take care of the things we have, repair the things we have. And so from a condemnation perspective, we have over 500 properties that we are working on. They're blighted or condemned. They need to be torn down in some level, shape, or form. We have $1 million that we got through rescue. LA, recovery store LA. No, we're still rescuing some. There's so many different pockets of money and acronyms we got to build. But so we're looking to use that funding to go through that. We're also looking at some other funding through OCD to let us maybe some program funding to fix the blight issue. I think it's important we do that. At the same time, hold our property owners more accountable. So we're changing some ordinance. We have a property that Tinley has a problem, you own a bunch of properties that Tinley has a problem, those fines are going to start stacking. Because if you reduce property values, it affects, we had situations, Francine, blighted property destroyed another property, right? That's one of the problems we have leaving some of this stuff like it is. So we're going through the process. We were processing 25 a quarter, now bump that up to 50, and we've been ready to work substitute planning to do more than that. Process these properties, we get a good process. We're also changing the way we serve. So right now that's to go through the mail, we gotta wait for that to be kicked back. We're changing to where we can actually physically serve people, which gives us faster turnaround time. We're processing these properties that are blighted. And so that's something we're doing, that's where we are, things we're doing. We actually did update, so our main county, the vagrancy ordinance was unconstitutional. So we created a camping ordinance that we can use. So the property I like to give an example of, you come down the twin spans, there's the bunkhouse and there's a building right after, and there's some banana boxes. If that property owner doesn't call the trash past them, there's nothing we can do. Now we have some hands on there, and it lets us address that blight situation. Somebody not living where they should. At the same time, we want to make sure they get the resources and help they need, not be homeless in the first place, which goes back to the
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Talking about this week, recreation accountability, we have an ordinance that we're working through the council right now. We have an advisory board that really can't do anything. I want something with a little teeth, something that works on a master plan, something that helps make sure that no matter where you live, no matter what age you are, you have a better opportunity and quality of life. And if we have a district that doesn't have a pool, you know, this district has 8 items or projects or programs, and this one has 2. That we all have programs and projects through all the recreation districts. And then working to get more foot traffic in the parish, especially downtown. Because again, there's a ton of investment of more people you get in, more businesses we have, more revenue we get, more sales tax we get, in turn helps us all. Any questions on this?
Yes, sir. Yes. Okay. They also have a problem with the patent, like when we call in a complaint about something, or get on the computer and put in a complaint about something, you submit it, and they say they're going to do something about it, and nothing happens, nothing changes. And I've got 2 different instances of this, and I'm trying not to be a problem with anyone, and I don't call them and raise hell and threaten and nothing like that. But there's a house down our street, I wrote it on the paper tonight, that's been abandoned for about 4 or 5 years now. The only reason why it doesn't look abandoned is because my neighbor and I keep the grass up in the front yard. If we didn't do it, the woman that owns the house wouldn't do it. The house, as far as we know, it's got electricity. Okay? To my knowledge, an abandoned house is not supposed to have electricity. We don't take care of the grass in the backyard because that's trespassing. Okay? The rodents that come up that backyard are so big that the cats are scared. And I'm not joking, it's real. Another thing that's happened is that I feel like in Schriever, it's like we're bottom of the barrel in a lot of ways. And I'll give you an example. I live on Clara Street. Clara Street, for the longest time, I had lived there almost 20 years, and the road had not been redone. I called the parish. First I put in to roads and I'll put in a complaint, did everything the right way. Nothing happened. No one even came to look at it. Then I called, I spoke to someone. Said you're going to get somebody to look at it. A month, 2 months go by, nothing. So long story short, I did this spot probably 4 or 5 times. The guy got so impatient with me just for asking. The road was so bad that we could literally go and pick up pieces of asphalt. And I was doing that, picking up pieces of asphalt, throwing it in my garbage can because it was coming all in my driveway. And the guy got so impatient with me. He said, "You know what? The road's going to get done when the road gets done." That's what he told me. Okay? And so they came finally about 3 years ago and they put us a road. It's already falling apart. They used the cheapest asphalt that money can buy. It has to be, because I've never seen a road start to deteriorate this fast. Isla Cuba, I don't live on Isla Cuba, but I sympathize with everyone. I use it. Potholes that develop overnight, and I mean it's sinkholes. Okay, they come in and they patch it. We can't ever get any good roads here. You look all over Terrebonne Parish, and I find in Schriever and Gray, we don't get the good roads. Everybody else gets the good roads. And then when we call in and make a complaint about an abandoned house and about road, we get ignored. And then when they do acknowledge us finally, tells me, we'll get that road done when we get the road done. You know, and I'm hoping, honestly, that you could be the one to fix it. It's perfect that this happened, this town hall, because I was actually going to go and see, you know, and introduce myself and, you know, and actually please try to get something done for us. And that's it. I know our problems are small compared to a lot of the problems the parish has.
but it would be nice to know that we kind of matter just a little bit.
Well, that's why I'm here, right? Town hall is for us to come to you.
And I
us to be
appreciate it.
proactive.
I appreciate it.
First, I want to thank you for helping take care of that property, right? Because you don't have to, and it helps. And I know Chris walked over there and got your paper. You know, part of the problem we're having with this condemnation process is we got to send a letter, and then sometimes that letter didn't get received. It's got to get returned. We got to get an attorney involved.
Yeah.
So I know some of these have gone 6 months, a year, maybe even longer because we confirm from you, right? That's where we go to that serving process where we're able to get known possible addresses, like other possible addresses they can have. And we have to change our ordinance to allow for that to be part of the legal process, right? We got to make sure we follow the legal process, because if not, we get in trouble.
Right.
So I know for sure I'm going to say he's going to check it out. He might have already checked it out. And that's one of the reasons why we're here. You know, maybe something gets left out. Maybe something doesn't get done, right? When it comes to the conversation that was had, I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to tell you that we're leading with customer service. It's a conversation we have on a regular basis to make sure, because I don't think it's intentional in some cases, and we had this conversation at our staff meeting Monday. You might end up talking to somebody, and they might not feel that we can fix your issue, right? But it doesn't mean we have to stop there, right? And so I've had some people get told, they gotta, I can't help you, you gotta do a council member, you gotta call the parish president. That's not the answer I want to give, right? I want to give the answer of, we're gonna check it out and we're gonna get back to you.
Yeah.
And if it isn't something the parish can do, then maybe we can pass it over to a nonprofit or somebody that deals on in-net needs post-storm recovery to even give you an answer, even if it's not us that can do the work or fix the issue, right? And so that's what we're working on. We are working on improving our work order systems. I tell people, call us. And look, sometimes I got beat up because people don't feel like I have an open door policy. And on average, I'm booking between 2 and 3 weeks out. But I tell people, if you give me the address, you give me a phone number, you give me a picture, I'm going to get into that department. 9 times out of 10, it will be fixed before we even have an opportunity to meet. And the other thing that we've done since I've been in office is to change the way we manage people. And you can ask anybody in any room that works for us. We worked on job descriptions that had 2 or 3 different versions, formats. We standardized that. We made everything measurable. Once a day, once a week, once a month, as needed, this based on that, right?
I appreciate it.
Then we had a conversation about what's going well, what's not going well, and how they're going to fix it. So that's what I did really the first 6 months that I've been in parish government, because that's what I do for businesses for 20 years, 25 years now, right? I've been able to make businesses more profitable, more productive, more efficient. And so we're going through that process. We're enacting decision trees so that people can get the answers faster, or if somebody needs to step into a role, they can hit the ground running. And so through all those things, I feel like we've already become more efficient and we're being more successful. And we're looking at the fact that Public Works really didn't have a work order system, or we had 2 or 3 different work order systems. And so we're doing that. We're upgrading our phone system. We just upgraded our email system, all so that we can better collaborate and communicate and react faster, and also turn around and give people information so our residents and our businesses can make better informed decisions, right? And so I don't even have to guess that I know Chris is going to check out the problem you're talking about. Might even have an answer before he leaves here, and if not, he'll have an answer soon.
I got it down.
Right? When it comes to the street perspective, David Rowe's not here, but Noah Lerad, who he reports to, is. And I have to tell you, part of the conversation about, again, every year we have 200,000, 500,000, maybe 2 million for roads, and that's it. And so we try to identify the ones that are the worst, and we work between the concrete and asphalt, and we go through that, working with our council members to help us understand priorities, and we do what we can every year and trying to put all that into one bucket. Again, maybe we go back to the infrastructure fund that you were talking about earlier that says, we've been hit with Ida and hit with this and that. I need some infrastructure funding to help fix our roads, but to have a better understanding and make sure we all agree on that priority. So I can guarantee you, hopefully you wrote down either the same or different piece of paper, so Noah can check out the other issue. And I actually know there's even some drainage issues that we've talked about in that same area between back and main project.
I don't have any drainage problems in my house as long as they turn the pumps on, but our neighbors get flooded. In the very house that I'm talking to you about, that one floods, but she didn't worry about it. I'd like to have a brick house that I could just leave abandoned and not care about,
And part of this conversation is when somebody brings us something,
there's a council member know about it, there's a director that deals with that department know about it, and if they do, what's holding us up? Right? I believe you can address 3 questions to any issue you deal with personally or professionally. What have you done? What are you doing? What's holding you up? And when it comes to the director not being able to fix that road or that drainage issue or that nuisance house, what's holding them up? And then in the conversation where they go, we need to change the ordinance. So we're doing that, right? Because that's what our department asks for so that they can be more efficient and more effective because their hands are tied to an extent also, right? So, but I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? I'll move forward. All right. Quality branding. One of my favorites, not gonna lie. So I played TPR. I coached both baseball, volleyball, football, and TPR. Played on just about every field that was available. And then got involved in recreation with a task force that I served on with the chamber. Just make sure that recreation is good for everyone. And then it turned into a conversation for me in about 2018 about it really being more about quality of life instead of recreation. Because I believe when you say recreation, people think children. And TPR has had a turbulent history. And people remember when we talk about it. So I look at it as an opportunity to do things different. We created the first quality of life department in the state. And when we did that, I had this new window here, which is the counselor with parish leads. And with that, I talked to him about, I want to rename this and rebrand this. What do you think? And so, for example, when you wanted to book a municipal tour, you had to call one person. But when you wanted to book the Civic Center, you had to call somebody else, right? So there's some inefficiencies in the fact that you're dealing with multiple people. And so, really working off Jim's idea, we created 3 subcategories. Athletics and leisure, which is your traditional football, baseball programs, and all your sports. Community enrichment. So we basically had a Main Street department, a downtown development corporation that was doing some things we thought would fit into more of a parish plan, right? So to bring in nonprofits, volunteerism, some of the outreach that I'll talk about tonight, is what we call our community enrichment, and then venues and destinations. So we took the sportsplex and the civic center. We have parks throughout the parish. We have the municipal auditorium, the Dumas auditorium. We have an air-based splash pad. We stuck all that into venues and destinations, with the conversation being booking through one area and having that same mission and vision. And then one of the things we just recently did is take over the air base part on the east side, because I like to turn that into the white short west. You don't believe the side, the west side, that's right. And then from there, it's working with our recreation districts, which I feel like Jim's done a great job of building some relationships and reestablishing some things that we maybe had issues with in the past. Well, again, to us, it means improving quality of life. I ran on 4 pillars to get elected. It was good government, infrastructure, economic development, quality of life. And I believe 3 of those affect quality of life. If we work on infrastructure and improving fix things. If we work on good government, which is transparency, at some point, once we get our financial system upgraded, it's been outdated since the 90s, we're going to have it to where you can see how much we collect and what we spend and where we spend it and who we spend it with. So, and infrastructure, right? Just fixing broken things, right? Grass, trash, roads, bridges, all those things. And I'll talk a little bit about some of that what we're doing with USD. But again, the goal is to improve our quality of life and have that for everybody, no matter where you live and how you live. Any questions on quality of life before I move forward? Bodies, talked a little bit about it earlier. SAG and cleared SAG. What we did by Terrebonne. Some of us having derelict homes or building properties. Let's have over 900 derelict vessels in our bodies and waterways throughout the parish. $1 million in insurance money that we're using and help get some of that cleaned up. But again, as we identify that we have that many, also trying to find funding. We've got wildlife and fisheries, Coast Guard, Corps, we with everybody to say, what can we do to work together to fix this, right? One of the big issues we have is lilies. And what happens is that the wildlife and fisheries gets their budget in June, July, they have $5 million for aquatics for the entire state. And by the time they get back around to the spring, most of that, if not all that money spent.
So we're saying, hey, can you keep a little bit of that funding to the springtime? Because if you go have to go do this in the spring, you have less of a fight in the summer. And they might be able to knock it out faster, quicker, maybe we work together on it. But again, just trying to change the way we do things and having that open conversation with them saying, this is what we see as the issue, and one of the ways that you maybe can attack it. So let's try to get that sprayed in the spring instead of waiting till the summer when it's really too late. So that helps them be more efficient with their funds, which allows us to be more efficient with our funds. Our vegetation, so we have vegetation from a drainage perspective, and we have vegetation from a rough cuts and fine cuts, like the rows and all. The rough cuts, that area falls into clay. The drainage part falls into public works. And we are looking at ways to do that more efficiently, more effectively. And I'll talk about that a little more over UTD. But again, just maybe trying some things different, maybe spraying in a different time frame. And we launched a Bayou revival campaign. Go to our Facebook page and our website to see the video. They're bringing awareness to the fact that we want to make sure our bayous get back to the healthy, maintain, keeping trash out of it. We did some things for Mardi Gras. It was an orange fence that we lined along Bayou Terrebonne, all over right there by the mall. And we stopped trash from getting into the bayou there. And then we put some berms at bridges going down Bayou Terrebonne that if it did make it into the bayou, it didn't make it into the coastal. So we've seen some signs come up on some bridges. If you haven't seen it yet, it just makes people aware. Like, don't let it bother you. Right? It's a water source. It's an opportunity for recreation, quality of life. So we're doing things like campaigns like that to make everybody aware. Like, hey, people want to help us with that. Well, we've had situations like deals with solid waste. We'll go through and clean up an area and come back the next week, and it's just as bad as before. So it takes all of us to be involved in making sure little less. So we need your help with that. Any questions on bayous before I move forward? We're almost
Why did they stop spraying the bayou side? They used to be on the 4-wheel.
We're at
Great.
great.
I don't know where they sprayed it, but they did spray the grass. And now the grass has grown. They have trees there. You can't look on one side of the bayou to the other. And they would come, I don't know how regular they get, but you can see it was so clean. But now we have trees and grass. And they don't come and spray at all anymore.
So at a certain point, then it becomes a tree, right?
That's
The spray's not going to do anything. It just comes back to us with our activated bodies and clear and sag every what we're doing. We got to get that done. And when we deal with some of these, especially like body or here, this conversation about what's the same responsible for, we're very responsible for trying to step in and help where we can. But if we were to cut all state grants in the parish, it would be $1.6 million, right? Now, if I do that, I got to take $1.6 million from someone else. So we're trying to figure out what we can do to help work together. And again, we're going to do a clear and sag, really gets that body to tell all of what we think it should be, that then turns around and helps it to be easier to maintain between us and the state. Again, working together with the fact that some of that stuff's wildlife fisheries and they wait until the summertime and it's late. Again, we're just trying to have some different conversations, try some things differently. And really, once we get that project done and get that cleaned out, to me, we're going to have more of an opportunity of success to keep it at a level that it should do it for.
So I have a business and there's some trash.
Tent, we got it on the map. I can see your tent on the map. We're going through and cleaning all that up.
Yeah, when, tomorrow? Because what I'm saying is when there's a lot of rain on the state, I have water goes into my restaurant. And that's what I'm concerned about. It is not supposed to be in there. But my issue is I'm getting the results of it. They raised the road and my business became a basin. So their water comes there. I have sand all around it. But if there's trash that's keeping the water flow not moving,
Well, and look, we're working to get all the debris out, right? We got tomorrow. I can't go on. Well, some of it, hold on, let's just, some of it is clear saying. We have a project we're working on to get debris ran to the Terrebonne, Francine, out of line. I think it's those two ones, right? So we might have to come through and grab that tent, right? We're gonna do that. I can't tell you something tomorrow, because we have 2,200 square miles to kind of clean up, right? We really do. We're gonna say to have that conversation. But even if I cleaned out your area and dredged it and cleaned it, it's not going. Right? We gotta work, we're working our way up from down out. So that as you continue to clean it, right? If I did it all the way around, it's gonna build up. So I'm cleaning it where it's gonna flow. And that's the second part of that that we are gonna do, because we had to wait for, this is for sure, we had to wait for certain declaration from people that may give us a problem, we got a storm that reimburses us for the right? At that point, I think we were probably about $34 million in hurricane recovery with price, which we didn't know we were going to get reimbursed for, right? So here we were told to get to work, and without shouting down, we're going to get reimbursed for that. And then it's still a 96 split, instead of come up with 10%, or whatever that number is going to finally be. But I can tell you that we had to go through, like Chris talked about, we were identifying damages. We did the same thing with debris. We had to do that assessment before we come through and start grabbing. And we're going to be fiction about it where we don't want to go to this body, pick up this, and then go to this body, pick up this. And once we're finished our assessment, I have asked our team to put together a map, show a timeline, when things are going to be. And we have to make sure we do that. It's something we go on this, right? So, unfortunately, there's a method to the madness. That's just to make sure we do it efficiently. We get the best thing for our buck, and also at the same time, work our parish boys, our contracting efficiently also, instead of having to run into the corner of the other part of the parish. I know this is what the and I guarantee you, nothing doesn't happen. So that's shoot. So I understand it's not happening so much months.
So both TV movement is flying on Houma to break any sort of break zone.
But that's the thing, if we start breaking Houma, it's still got to get this area that needs to go through the sidewalk, right? So we're working our way the other way, because as we clear out, it flows, right? As we clear out, everything, water flows slow. If we start up here, it's still going to stop the sheet. And it's going to probably cause more problems. If this is going to collect more, it's going to have to work too. So that's how we're working our way.
The values are not being cleared out, being great. So this is years that have gone by where they have all of this, everybody, trees in there. It's gone this many years since people think about that. They the one that's coming and dragging anything out from here. So when it rains too much, or they have hurricane, there's a water back up. That number we have.
That's why
business, house.
we're going to do it, right?
Matter of fact, your insurance will wear.
Trust me, we look. I can't
Don't feel
lie.
like the people in the break, get in it, type of dredging at all in the body.
We're going to fix it.
Does anyone know when's the last time Bayou Terrebonne actually did?
I do not know. I don't know if any of our parish employees.
Well, the reason I'm asking is my
First term. And that was
12 years ago,
Oh, it has to be wrong.
and that wasn't even all the way up. That was just up until about like Evergreen area.
It's a repair.
Because my father-in-law, my mother-in-law's 83, and my father-in-law died in 2004, and she has a paper dated before 2004 that because she lives on Old Schriever Highway, right by the old path, that they were going to dredge the bayou.
That's it. That's funding, right, wrong, or different. My slogan is moving us forward.
Yeah.
Because whatever's happened to where we are today. We're working on moving forward and maintenance. And so the fact that, if there's another project in 2012, it probably wouldn't have made the entire bayou. Like Noah was talking about, it had been a -6. We'd had some bank issues, so I'm a firm believer in everything out for a reason. I hate that it's taking this long. And I don't know when the last time most of the bayou did great. Like I broke third. Like everyone goes to right now, so when it's in very bad, right? That's what will restore us, that we can get our waterways healthy, we get them maintained, we get water flowing, turn out drainage, and hopefully resolve some issues. Any other questions on that part? We'll on to the next one. I think it's a final one. Oh, it's already. All right, so I'll talk about DOTD. So we have a meeting quarterly with DOTD, and we talk about things that are upcoming and going on. And besides that, every time we get made aware of an issue, we report, right? We've been having conversations, we were trying to get a schedule, how often they cut, where they cut, how they
Town
cut.
hall with them?
What's that?
Can we have a town hall with them?
You can, look, you can. So I'll tell you, the first meeting I had with them, I sat down and said, look, I know most of the time you probably get yelled at, right? We got people that deal with stuff locally that they have no control over. They're doing what they're told with the money they have. And so to me, when I have a conversation, I'm going to have it at the top, right? Because the people down at the bottom are just really doing what they're told or whatever it is, right? But there really is limitations. So we have a conversation to make sure we're on the same page. And I'm like, in situations where you can't do something, let us help. So we already have a couple spots that we have been cutting grass for.
Yes,
with
the
DOT,
Schriever overpass, thank you.
right?
By the Schriever.
And we're asking for more. And so as we go through this process, they might only cut certain areas 7 times a year when it needs to be 12 or it needs to be 10. So part of it is that we get the opportunity to cut the difference or to cut it all together. And they're going to reimburse us for that. And if we do, when we do, it allows them to address some other things. And I think overall, we're all better for it, right? Then you have a conversation with drainage and roads and everything else, right? All the other stuff that we work with them to take care of. We have a lot of state highways in the parish, and a lot of times the drainage that runs along that highway belongs to the state and or the waterway, where we have to have conversations about they're supposed to spray versus us. And at the end of the day, when it comes to safety, we're going to get it done. You know, so I declared a state of emergency about the intersection at South Boulevard and St. Charles, right? Concrete was coming up like this. So I said, we're declaring a state of emergency, we're gonna go fix it. And I got more conversation with DOTD that week than I did probably the previous 6 months combined, right? And I was pushing a conversation with the governor about, you know, it's just unsafe, we gotta do something about it. And it was fixed by that Saturday, right? Again, they were like, please don't, please don't. I said, I gotta take care of the safety of our residents, right? And that's why I played, as he's going around and cutting stuff that belongs to the parish, they've been doing the corners and a lot of the bridges so that it's a little bit easier to see. And that's just something that we just do, right? We fuss us later or whatever, right? Beg for forgiveness versus ask for permission. But at the same time, that's funds we're expending. We got to make sure there's a balance there. But we have requested more stuff from them for us to do, work with them. At a point, we get reimbursed for. And then you go through repair. Right? I know this road was overlaid. We have projects like Brook Bridge that's now in February, it's in January. The Van Road Bridge replacement. This project we're working on 185, the main project road roundabout. We're selling this 2025. We have some bridges out of Bayou we're working on. But we are, again, working with DOT and getting a list of projects that are let out that a lot of times they tell us we can't share, but we're trying to give people ideas, you know? And then you look at the lighting issue we have on the Schriever overpass, right? We're doing repair and fix and everything else. Well, we were able to get some funding through Barrow, actually, about $250,000 from the state. We're going to match that to some lighting district funds, and we're going to finally repair because it's an underground line issue we got to work on. So again, we're trying to get the things that are broken fixed, trying to get roads that need to be repaired. Grass needs to be cut. You know, we're all working on doing all that, and we're going to continue to push on DTD. And again, I've had conversations with the governor. He wants to restructure that whole deal, so every time I have an opportunity to share with him how it could be different and better, we are. I'm having conversations with the secretary, the deputy secretary, you know, of what our people need for them to be successful. And again, I was talking with the governor, and he says, man, you tell me how much it costs you to cut state grass, I'll find you the money. Before you can finish saying it, I was like, $1.6 million. And he looks at me, and I go, I'm ready, let's go. You know, but some of these things take time. But again, it's moving that conversation forward. But DOTD told us when they met with us, they never had a conversation like we had by saying, hey, I want to work together. Let us fill the gap. Let us help you if you can't get to it. And to me, that is a way of doing things differently that sets us up for success, employees, directors for success, ultimately our residents and businesses for success.
Down on 360. I live 360.
Are we 316?
It's bad.
It is bad. I need to see what that is on the left. That falls right there in the line for the food. I don't know.
No, it's Terrebonne, what?
Right.
That's in Terrebonne. That's bad.
Just seeing that line in that project. We can get that for you, let you know.
Oh, it's bad.
It is, look, there's a lot of stuff that's bad. July 2025? Yeah. But they're saying that project's 2025.
That's from 2024 to
And that's something we're working on doing is sharing that information and love. When they say it's flat, it means, it goes to bid and everything else. Unfortunately, like we do in some of the grid projects, they have a concrete issue, pushes it back, So there is a constant conversation going back and forth that it's supposed to be this stage. People are scared to give dates. I'd rather give a date than change it than not give a date at all. But at the same time, I hope people are understanding that we are just trying to give information, be informative. Things might change. Beryl has her hand up. Yes, ma'am.
Highway 316, resurfacing the rough parts. We were able to find a pot of money, I think it was early last year, or late in 2023. And they gave each parish a little bit of money. And the parish legislator, the ones who represent the parish, got to decide how to use it. Well, the amount they gave Terrebonne and the amount they gave Lafourche wasn't enough for any of the projects in Terrebonne and Lafourche that were waiting. So we pulled the money and we came to the agreement that it would be used for resurfacing of Bayou Road. So the money's there, it's sitting and waiting. Somebody at DOTD decided to hold the project up so that they could also lift the intersection at 316 and 24, especially because it floods right around UPS to the intersection. They want to do that project all at one time. So as of right now, that project is supposed to be set for 2025. I'm still arguing with them about how it really should have been resurfaced already, but the higher the level of government, the slower it moves. So at least it's going to happen in 2025.
Lots of real-time information for you on that one. Thank you.
What is it going to happen to the residents that are a person in the apartment, something happens to them in their time?
Report to the state. If you get damage and those, you get damage where it's on highway, you call DOT, don't know about it. And that's a plan you can work through.
Where she's talking about on 316 is here. The mesh calls and nowhere for prevention. There's no side.
Here you get it fixed. Like I said, she barely with her DOT on if it didn't get done.
Look what might happen in 2025. To the people in the community.
I know it's not, well, I know we're working to get stuff done, be more efficient, funny, up to the DOT out when we can. And, look, I believe if there's a bad pothole, most big issue, we'll go drop some asphalt in it. Right. Call us and let us go by. If there's a bad pothole, we maybe give you something temporary to get it done, we'll go. Not sure.
The highway on
And look, part of the conversation, I think, we have to be real about the fact that it probably costs us 2 times the amount, maybe 3 times the amount, to lay the asphalt road than it does in Texas. You look at the bedrock, sediment, the fact that we are built the way we built. So unfortunately, our money probably didn't go as far as it would whenever you use the road in Texas. And we're looking at some projects to overlay asphalt roads in our parish that are half the price of 75% of the life. Again, when we do stuff like that, it's an opportunity for us to spread the money out to get other stuff done. Guarantee you, we're working on this. Like, one thing I say about for a team up against anybody in the state, they work their butts off. Side went through the hurricane. our resolution we did, long respect against the community, and just information we provided. Hopefully everybody sees the difference.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
So what's the last law? Yes. So if you would love to fill out the survey, we appreciate it. We have a slide that would like to speak real quick. So we'll pull on up forward. Got a question. We got a question. As he's walking up.
Giving out dates. Do you have a date on the Robinson Canal Bridge?
Robinson Canal Bridge. Is that what's on there? On the
It doesn't have a date.
Robinson Canal. Is that ring a bell? January? Okay, January now. And look, so I'll give you an example. We've had conversations with DOTD because Woodrow Canal Bridge is next. And they're going to be building a bridge around the current bridge. We had a conversation, said, well, what if that bridge fails? That's already there. And so it might be for the detriment of marine traffic, but we might have to put a fixed span temporary bridge there if that bridge fails, because we want to make sure we do everything we can to not stop the flow of traffic like we've done with the Robinson Canal Bridge. And so we are having those conversations now about alternative plans and what does it look like if it fails. So hopefully you'll see that Woodrow Canal Bridge project run a lot better than the Robinson Canal project. But I know they had a concrete mixture issue. I think they might even replace the vendor on the Robinson Canal Bridge. Like they had some stuff that they had to work through, which has caused a delay. All right, so Portland Small Business Association.
Right here.
Small Business Administrator, you're good. Let him talk real quick, and then I'll answer more questions.
Yeah, one more.
And one more? Oh, okay. Okay.
I just wanted to ask about that roundabout that was talking about. Where is that roundabout?
Roundabout, that is 311. Wait, what is that?
So where they putting that over there? That's right there in Schriever. They building that?
They're gonna build that, yes.
Over there where the four-way stop.
Yeah.
It's like North Main project?
I think that's what it is. I could be wrong on that.
You come off the Schriever overpass and take a left by the dealership.
Yeah, so they putting that over there where the four-way stop.
Yes. Right. There's a lot of roundabouts.
Hey, that traffic already bad right there, so when they do that, it's gonna be super bad.
Man, I'll tell you, I know people like roundabouts. We're gonna be putting one at the corner of Valhalla and Hollywood, and everywhere that we're doing it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, the traffic is flowing better. So, Drew may be still out on that, but we've seen success on the roundabouts, because if not, we wouldn't be doing it.
I understand that, but when they doing it though, it make it, and the traffic already bad now, so when they doing it, it's gonna make it super bad.
Right. But sometimes we gotta, make an omelet, we gotta break a few eggs, and things might get a little worse before they get better. But unfortunately, sometimes that's what progress looks like, right? And so the long-term play is that at the end of the day, it will be better. And unfortunately, we won't. Break a few eggs, but it'll be a good omelet, I promise. All right. So it was Small Business Administration. We have 2 disaster centers that we're working, both at the main library and the North Branch Library. These will talk about some great opportunities for if you're dealing with FEMA and or not, and what they can do. So I'll let you take it away, and then I'll answer any other questions, and I will not leave till all questions are answered.
Awesome. Thank you so much, President Bergeron. Again, my name is Corey Williams, Public Information Officer with the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Recovery. And I know a lot of people are focusing on Lane and Milton, but one thing that I'm here for, my fellow PIOs, Renata and Mary Ashley here, we're here for Hurricane Francine and how it had the impact here in Terrebonne Parish. So the first step in the disaster recovery process is to register with FEMA. there are numerous ways to actually register. You can go to disasterassistance.gov. You can call the 800 number, which is 1-800-621-3362. And a lot of people don't realize 3362 actually spells out FEMA. You can actually download the FEMA mobile app, or you can actually visit the Disaster Recovery Center that's at the Central Branch Library, and those hours of operation are from 8 to 5, I think, Monday through Saturday. And then we also have our Business Recovery Center that's in the North Branch Library. That's, I think, 8 to 5 as well, Monday through Friday. I think we have some weekend hours also. But once you actually register with FEMA, the one thing that I want to amplify today is to simultaneously apply for the SBA loans just to see what federal rate of benefits you may be eligible for. The one thing I always say, and I always hear, well, I don't want a loan for it. Well, you're under no obligation to take any kind of loan assistance. But the one thing I always say is that this is a safety net, it's a security blanket, just in case the recovery that you may receive from FEMA may not make you whole. So that's the purpose of the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Recovery Programs. And just to give you a couple of highlights of the differences from Hurricane Ida to now, is that Hurricane Ida, and I know that was more devastating than this current Hurricane Francine, during that time we had loan limits for homeowners up to $200,000. Now, our administrator, Houma, noticed that was creating a shortfall for homeowners, so she actually increased those limits up to $500,000 for real estate repair replacement, and then the initial personal property amount was $40,000 for personal property. Now that's been increased to $100,000. So now homeowners can actually borrow up to $600,000 to repair, replace disaster damaged real estate and personal property, which would include any vehicles. And interest rates are as low as 2.813%, 12-month deferment, 12-month zero interest. So, and also renters, instead of borrowing up to $40,000 in previous disaster, now can borrow up to $100,000 to repair, replace disaster damaged personal property, as well as any vehicles lost, with those interest rates as low as 2.813%. So the one thing that I always say is that by applying, you're under, again, no obligation to actually accept the loan, but at least you can know what you may be eligible for. Now, for nonprofits, a lot of, the one thing that I always love, I'm a Texas boy, true and through, born and raised in Orange, Texas. So one of the things that I've noticed, in Louisiana as well as Texas, the South, we always have festivals. We always have different events. So one of the things with Hurricane Francine, it may have impacted the timing of those events. So there may have been events scheduled for October that had to be moved to April or May, or there may have been events that were canceled. So for nonprofit organizations, any church events, church festivals, for that nonprofit organization, that was anticipated revenue on a certain date. So whenever those events are canceled, postponed, not attended as much, that creates economic injury. And that's the purpose of the economic injury disaster loan, is to provide the working capital not only for the nonprofits as well as businesses, but it makes sure that those nonprofits keep their business sustained during this recovery period. Nonprofit interest rates are fixed at 3.25%. Again, that same 12-month deferment, that same 12-month zero interest. And then business owners also can borrow up to $2 million to repair, replace disaster damaged real estate, machinery, inventory, equipment. But again, any Terrebonne business owner, the one thing I always hear is that, Corey, I need a little bit of capital, but I don't want to pledge collateral. Well, you can borrow up to $25,000 for your economic injury, up to $25,000 for your physical loss, and that's an unsecured loan. So let's say in that 12-month period, using the 12-month deferment, the 12-month zero interest, you use that $50,000 from the federal government, You start your road to recovery, and then you realize, you know what, after 12 months, my business is back in order. It's even stronger and better. You turn around, you pay off that loan because of that 12-month deferment and that 12-month zero interest, you have no loan. So this is the way to use your federal taxpayer dollars to keep your business, nonprofit, your home home intact, as well as for renters. And there's also mitigation programs. I know President Bergeron talked greatly about how, the flood insurance rates have been impacted. So one of the things our administrator also installed is that there's now mitigation for all perils. It used to be for the similar peril, but now you can actually mitigate for all perils. So any homeowner is eligible for up to 20% of their total loss. So if you want to earthquake-proof your home, you want to flood-proof your home, you want to flood-proof your home, you want to windstorm-proof your home, you can do all those mitigative measures, and especially when it comes to insurance rates, flood insurance, being able to be in what's called ICE compliance may help you. I'm not going to make any guarantees, but it may help you in reducing your flood insurance rates when you lift your home and do all the things that are in compliance with not only the parish, but also with any kind of federal laws. So I just thank you so much for the time, and if there's any questions you may have of me before I pass it off to President Bergeron.
Before we finish, there's two things you didn't say today, you always say. But you talk about deductibles, you talk about credit cards.
Yes.
Talk on that.
Yes, another thing that so many people have that thought of is that, I'll just throw it on my credit card, at 15, 16% interest, and I'll be okay. Well, my question to you as a homeowner, my question to you as a renter, my question to you as a business or nonprofit, why would you take a chance of getting, high interest rates for a credit card when you can take a 12-month zero deferment, 12-month no interest loan from the federal government? And if you're actually back in order, you can actually turn around and pay that loan off. Further, if there's any insurance deductions, we know that the cost of homeowners insurance, flood insurance is becoming higher. So if there's, and now deductibles are maybe as high as 3%, sometimes 5 or 2%. Well, for the federal government, we consider that an uninsured loss. So again, if you're waiting for your homeowner insurance, don't wait that 60 days to start your recovery. Don't wait that 120 days to start your recovery. You can start your recovery now. So when you get your insurance check 4 months down the line, 5, 6 months down the line, you turn around, pay off the SBA loan, and there's no loan. So again, just make sure that while you're actually registering with FEMA, to make sure to simultaneously apply for SBA, because that's why I'm here, that's why Renata, that's why Mary H. are here, because we want to make sure that you start that road to recovery as soon as possible.
If they go to the library, y'all help them through both of those processes?
Yes, sir. We will actually help you not only for the businesses and nonprofits. You can go to the Business Recovery Center at the North Branch, because that's kind of more the one-stop shop for the business owners. But again, homeowners who register go to that center as well. But then the FEMA State Disaster Recovery Center at the Central Branch, is more kind of allocated to the homeowners and renters.
Question,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have that in writing? That I can go with that, what you were saying tonight?
Yes. So you can go to SBA.gov/disaster. But I think Ms. Mason, my fellow PR, she has a fact sheet that kind of shows a lot of those things right next to you. So she can give you all that information right there for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I will hear you for records that you're here for Francine. What about if you still haven't taken care with SBA?
That's another great question. So one of the things that I would want to actually, that should help you in this process, what I would do is call our customer service center and let them know that you currently have an IDA loan. Did you have a loan for IDA? No, okay.
Did you ever FEMA claim on IDA? Did you do a FEMA?
Haven't been done yet. Should have been, but it hasn't been done. That's why I was asking. Are you still able to take care of
So that's a great question. The outer deadline has passed. So I can't speak on behalf of what FEMA, if you have anything pending within a skill. But as far as SBA, that deadline is passed, unfortunately. But again, if you have damage, and one of the things that our administrator has noticed is that there have been some deferred maintenance issues, I would strongly recommend that you go ahead and at least apply for the SBA loan and see what you may be eligible for in that situation. If it was deferred from our
Yeah, SBA.
for SBA.
I'm really concerned about the SBA.
Yes.
You still can possibly.
You can apply for Phase C. You can apply for items. You can apply for Phase C. Yeah, the deadline's passed for items.
Okay.
Any other questions? For? Thank you. Thank you for being there. Glad to be here. Scott's Facebook channel. Yeah, you made it. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. I have one. It's a drainage issue, but it was land bank. We moved over. You can have all this, and I'm not from here, okay? I'm trying to. I couldn't be in, no, a little north. Anyway, we built a house. We was about home up in the idle business, we're running. Jamaica does anyway. We wound up building a house over here off of water line. And they put in this, they had to pour the sidewalks and everything. Well, when they did, they put the sidewalk higher than the street drain. And it acts like a dance. I sent stuff into the drainage board, and I sent stuff into my district board. I hadn't heard back from anyone. But I talked to my builder about it, and he said, well, it was approved by the parish.
Now, fill out on that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, we're gonna take that, we're gonna work the answer, got phone number on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said it was approved by the parish, so the builder wouldn't do anything about it. So and it's not, I mean, it keeps the water, when it rains, it puddles. But this wasn't straight out like that. I don't know what to do, but can't get out there or anything in the street, but I hate to take it out a lot of water. And it will eventually dry up, you know, I mean, it's not like it sits there for hours at a time. I don't know who to turn to when I couldn't, I get.
Once you turn to us, and again, I got your office in January, we'll move forward from there, and after these town halls, I'm going to conservation. My CEO's not grabbing that, I'm going to work through the picture.
Well, I appreciate it, I just didn't know where else to turn, you know. Well, I mean, it's, you know, it's not on me, but it's a whole, it affects the whole neighborhood, because I'm right in front of the neighborhood.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
It's about the drainage also. I moved from Chauvin to Schriever. I've had more water in my house in Schriever than I ever did in Chauvin. And it's the water coming out of the ditch. I have a main ditch. I've talked to Mr. John. I've talked to the previous administration. I've submitted pictures and all. You know, there's an issue with getting the water out. You know, and it's not just, I live off St. George, but I know it's back towards Walden and all that too, like that whole area.
Yeah, St. George, that's the back project and main project,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what you and I talked about. So John and I met, we had a meeting on the 1st of August. We just had a recent wish meeting, and that's one of the things he brought up to us. And so I know we are working on it. Some of this stuff, I'd love to be able to get in and fix it real quick. Some of this stuff does take a little bit longer. We got to deal with property owners and everything else as far as
Property owners right here.
Right.
That's the property owner.
We've been through this a while.
Well, yeah, and I know you just took office, but I mean, I'm going on 3 years.
John Corbin, he owns the property back there. In the last administration, I had David Rome go meet with him to get permission to go and widen the ditch. But what they determined, once they got started, was the crossing on Main Project, they couldn't handle the water to get it across, so they stopped that project. I would like to see that continue, but I'd like to see that culvert change to something that can carry that water across. So that's he, along with all these other people that live on the that section of St. George's drain. Mr. Corbin, where you live, are y'all having drainage problems?
Yeah, the train track.
Okay. Where the old train?
So the list you gave me, I gave to Noah, and individual items. Let's go figure out a way to get these issues resolved. And I guarantee you we're aware of it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I just,
I'm saying limited knowledge. I'm telling you guys what John and I talked about, and then I passed it to my guy, and I'm working, waiting on.
Yeah, and we
One of the things I'm gonna do is,
but we never had a follow-up. I know with Carol, was it Carol Basco?
Yeah.
They with us. You know, I've had water twice since.
look, this list I gave to Noah is the list I'm holding him accountable to, that he passes on the guy that deals with drainage, that he's holding him accountable to. And that's a system we put in place since I've been in office that leads to us having better success. And the fact that we really got to get a better work order system in public works, and that's what we're also working on. So some of this stuff maybe got lost, maybe who knows, right? But we had a meeting about it. We're going to get it resolved, and again, that's part of that bigger picture: wastewater studies, stormwater studies, road studies, and just making sure we all understand and agree these are priorities in the parish that we need to make sure.
No, I appreciate that. I've lived there for over 20 years. In the last 3 years, I've had one. I didn't have it the first 17. 4 years. 4 years.
The ditches along Main Project, is that parish or state?
That's all.
That's
We've had a couple conversations about the ditches, the shoulders.
Pictures of that.
You know, there's a whole area there we got to work on.
Okay, so there was a project that was done in 2019 down Brunei, Wobbin, my front yard. They closed in my ditch, and we kept them, okay, and put catch basins, which I've been living there for 21 years. I've never had water like I have now. And this is not just Francine. This is just a regular rain event. Yeah, I get water.
Same area?
Yeah, so it's that block.
Main
Something's
Project
changed,
and
but
Wobbin.
You're closer to the shop right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And they closed it in. You can look at how my property is, how I'm built up, where my house sits. They have a catch basin at the highest point, and they have one at the very lowest point. It's the only one that's trying to catch all this water now that's coming from the back of Brunei up to Wobbin and in my area. Francine, I was 2 inches away from getting water in my house, and I've been there 20, and I'm not in a flood zone. I maintain flood insurance, you know, because just for my peace of mind. But I've never had water like that since they closed in my ditches. My husband's like, just tell him to come open them back up. He'll keep them up, you know.
You know, so, and David's like, you're not confirmed. So I know in some situations, like we have a neighborhood not far off of Hollywood Road on Park, that the neighborhood was designed with open ditches. And all the neighbors closed their ditches in. That caused the drainage problem, right? Because there's less, some of that is retention, right? The ditch is going to hold, then the street's going to hold, and that's how it goes. So the fact that at two different levels, my first question would be, is that something we did? Right.
Down Wobbin, they closed all the ditches, but that was not the neighbors. That was a project. I don't know. Yeah, and it's terrible. And then and the reason I asked about the ditches, you have where I live in between Wobbin and St. Julian. The ditch past St. Julian, I'm not sure where the water goes when it passes in this, where they closed in my yard. My understanding is it crosses the street. Well, I have pictures of that ditch across the street. It is clogged. The ditch next to St. Julian has a banana tree growing out of it. It is so clogged. That's not being kept up at all.
Should I write both of those down on that piece of paper?
Yeah, I am.
All right. And again, you know, part of this is whether somebody was aware or wasn't aware, whether it is, you go across the parish, we did some culverts, residents did some culverts, and so a lot of times we go and say, what's to do here? We're actually working on a GIS map that shows like what areas we have right-of-ways, servitude, what we're responsible for, what areas we cut. And so as we work through all that, you know, we want to make sure that our team has the information, has the tools, has everything they need to be successful. And I'm hoping you see the difference, and I'm hoping you see
I just want somebody to explain to me what was done, why it was done.
Something's changed.
Because something's changed.
Something's changed. And it'd be nice to know where the water's coming from. From the standpoint, the water that passes in front of my house, like where does it come from? Like where's it split? Because there's a big outflow canal, literally 5 properties from me. You know that when you pass it doesn't even barely.
Hey, y'all for coming, by the way.
You know, so
we've had a conversation about it. It's definitely on our radar, and that's all we need.
He couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't. When we met out there.
Well, I want to say thank you, John. I want to say thank you to all of you guys for coming this weekend. This is a long time.
Yes.
We have not had this kind of communication. It's just wonderful to see and we thank you.
We're here to do is to help.
You know you have nothing next year. You didn't get any results.
Look, I know, trust me, I know. And we want you to see results, right? And look, we're gonna make some mistakes. I'd rather make the wrong decision 4 times than not make a decision at all. And that's what we get our people and say, what do you want to do? How do we do this different? How do we do this better, right? Right, now, Palmer, look, I'm going off the information I have. I had been able to fall back up around. The hurricane threw us off a little bit. It was fun to catch up a little bit with that. And that's the information I had, and just like John's here and Noah's here, to get that better understanding that it really needs to be that culvert. Then I go, okay, if we have that on the list where the project, if not, we should. If we do, we're holding this up. I appreciate y'all being on it, and I thank you for your time. I think time was right, and I appreciate you guys getting involved and being here to give up some of your time and help us move our affairs forward.